Travelers, stay tuned if you are looking for some great travel deals this week. This is basically a super casual hangout session where we talk about some of the great deals that are being provided this week by different travel suppliers. I give you my opinion on if it's actually a good deal or if they're just saying it is, if it's a good option to take kids along with you, or if it's something I would do more as an adults only trip. And you guys can ask questions in the comments. We've got a chat box going live that I can pull questions from. You can also, if you're watching this on the replay, go ahead and drop replay in the comments and let me know when you're watching this and ask your questions in the comments then. And we will be able to come back and answer them either on the next live in the comments section or on our travel tea talks as well. So be sure to tune in for those. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss those. Every week I take 5 questions that I've gotten regarding travel in all different forms with kids and answer them on our travel tea talks. And you can click the notify me button so that you get those notifications and don't miss those, or watch them after the fact. They're great for them too. So let's dig right into this. And these travel deals are basically compiled by Travel Zoo, which is they themselves are not a travel supplier. They basically curate these travel deals from all different travel suppliers and get the top 20 and put them on a list and send it out every Wednesday. Now, this used to be a free service. Now they have a subscription where you have to pay to have access to these deals, to be able to book them. But I'm going to review them with you. I'm not going to go through all 20 because that would take 2 hours, but I will pick a handful of my favorite and share them with you and mention why I'm not sharing the other ones. And we'll just kind of go through the top 20 list together. So let's dig right in and get started. I'm going to pull them up. So Travel Zoo is the name of the company, and these are their top 20 deals of the week. So first off, we have a Punta Cana All Inclusive trip, including flights for $5.99. Now, flight inclusive trips are something that I always take a deeper look at, make sure that it's not just from certain airports or which airports is it from. But flight inclusive trips are the way that I have been traveling lately because the prices of flights are just astronomical. Even to get just across the US, it's the same price as going to Europe sometimes. So we're on the east coast of the U.S. Probably these will be from the East Coast. This is through Apple Vacations, which is a reputable travel supplier who I would have no hesitation booking with. There are sometimes new companies on this list or companies that I wouldn't recommend, so I'll be sure to tell you that as we go along as well. But this Punta Cana All Inclusive is worth looking at. $5.99 per person with flights included is not a bad deal, but this is only 3 nights. So if you're looking for a longer trip, this might not be the one for you. This one is, it looks like the Melia Caribe Beach Resort, which I have not personally stayed at. So what I recommend in this situation is going to TripAdvisor and looking up the actual resort that this is at. I mean, it looks beautiful. It looks like it's oceanfront, and all-inclusive obviously is a plus. But my advice for any trip, not just these that we go over, any trip that you're going to go on is to go onto TripAdvisor and read actual hotel reviews. Take them with a grain of salt. You obviously don't have to, people are going to come and leave reviews when they're complaining about something. So you can see what they're actually complaining about. Is it that everything is broken or everything is dirty? Or is it that, maybe the hotel clerk they checked in with wasn't the nicest to them? And then you can take that with a grain of salt. But specifically go to the photos that TripAdvisor provides and skip the section that's like the advertised photos from the actual hotel and go to the traveler photos. They have a section of photos that are provided by people that have actually visited the hotel, the resort, and check those out because that'll give you a much more realistic view of what the hotel looks like. Obviously, they're going to put their best beautiful pictures in their advertisements. So these are from not just East Coast departures. This list just came out at 11:45 today, so we are literally going through it together right now for the first time. But it includes round-trip flights, 3 nights in a deluxe room, all meals and drinks, transfers to and from the airport, which is great, and all taxes and fees. So this seems like a pretty all-inclusive price for the $5.99 per person, and you could leave from Miami or Fort Lauderdale in Florida or Chicago for $100 more per person. Chicago, St. Louis, Cleveland. So there are other options from the Midwest for $100 more per person, which is still a decent deal. 3 nights is pretty short, but that puts it at still like $200 a night per person, which is not bad for an all-inclusive. It is still a discounted price. So this is all ages, all-inclusive, and it's on Bavaro Beach in Punta Cana. They're calling it an upscale resort with a modern Caribbean beach vibe. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but it claims multiple pools, a white sand beach, 13 restaurants and bars, and a casino to choose from. So this looks like I would entertain looking at this farther if I was looking into an all-inclusive family trip where, if you've got a family of 3, 4, 5, you can potentially get that for a better deal and maybe do like a weekend getaway. There are specific departure dates, which means they probably got like bulk pricing on the flights, and that's why they're specific dates. But you can look at those airport codes and see if any of those dates work for you. This is based on double occupancy, so there may be fluctuations based on how many people that you are going with. Travelzoo and the suppliers that it uses have different refund policies, so make sure that you read the fine print down here as well as the refund policy. Once this is booked, this one is non-refundable. Sometimes Travelzoo will have an extra clause in there where if you can't find the dates you want, or if you can't, you might have 2 weeks, 14 days to make adjustments or change to a future date or get travel credit. So it does acknowledge that you need to review the Apple Vacation terms and conditions before you book, and then you can book directly with Apple Vacations. You would just go up here to the Continue tab, and it will take you to the Apple Vacations site. Sometimes it will give you a code to use. This one is probably already embedded in it, but pay attention to that because sometimes Travelzoo will just have you take you to a checkout screen where you buy a voucher for that, and then you take that voucher to the site to go book with them. So that's important to note. All right, let's go back. I'm not going to get too much into this next one. It's $49 and up. It's a Southwest one-way fare sale. You can just go to the Southwest website. It's something that they're running from the Southwest website and basically just using Travelzoo to advertise this for them. And it's available to everyone. It's not a limited availability thing, but you can check it out and see if there's any travel deals there that make sense for you, because you could basically get a potentially round trip for $100, and that's not bad. All right, number 3, $9.99 from New York City. So this does have a little bit more restriction on where you can leave from, but to Lisbon, Madeira, and Porto in Portugal, which I have only heard amazing things of and talked to fellow travel friends that have spent time in these areas, and it looks like an amazing trip. $9.99 depending on how long you're going for, which it looks like this is 2, 4, 6, 8 nights. So that's actually a really nice length of time to go because you have a little time to adjust to jet lag, which is important. Probably more for adults than kids. Kids bounce back a lot easier. I have been taking like multiple days to recover from jet lag lately. It's the older I get, the more I need that window of like not having anything planned when I arrive somewhere. So Portugal is a beautiful place to visit. This includes round trip flights to Lisbon and returning from Porto, so you don't have to worry about that transfer time and losing time getting back to the same airport. Accommodations, I'm not familiar with these except for Yotel, which is kind of just like a budget, smaller hotel. Nothing wrong with it. It's not going to be like a 5-star luxury hotel, but it's a nice hotel. And this does include internal flight transfers between cities, which is really nice. Daily breakfast, air, and hotel taxes included. And it does look like there's more options. They said NYC in the listing, but it looks like Boston, Chicago, Detroit, Miami, Newark, New York, Washington, D.C. are all $9.99. And then you've got Atlanta, Orlando, and Philadelphia at $100 more. And then Denver, Houston, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and San Francisco at $11.49. Still, like I said, decent pricing for including flights. And that's what I'm looking for is flight inclusive deals, because these flights would probably run you $500 to $800 right now. This is departure times in August to November, April to July, also on sale. So it's actually decent travel times. You're hitting a bit of shoulder season there, so it's a little bit off season. But these are definitely places that I would not hesitate to bring kids with me to. And It looks like this is based on 2 people sharing a room. So obviously you'll have to price it out if you have more than 2 people traveling, and there are potentially going to be baggage fees. But I recommend traveling carry-on only. So you can avoid them that way. Local city tax is not included, and you pay that at the hotel. That is not uncommon to see, especially when you're traveling to Europe, that there might be a local city tax that you need to pay at the actual hotel. It's usually not a ton, but just to work that into your budget as well. This is another non-refundable deal, and this is booked through Travelo deal, which I have not actually booked through before, so I can't give my recommendations. They're a little bit newer to the scene, and you do have to call in to book. It's not something you can book yourself online, which always is slightly frustrating to me, because usually if you have to call in, they're going to try and upsell you on something. They're going to try to talk you into maybe like excursions or something else, but you might be happy to call in and book with someone over the phone, because then they can definitely help you a bit more. Again, if you have questions about the destinations, just leave them in the chat box. And if you would consider going and using this deal, comment Portugal down below. Let's get back to our top 20. All right, number 4 is another one. I'm not going to get into too much detail, because this isn't a package vacation. It's more just a hotel fare that's on sale, hotel rate that's on sale, and this is in Vermont. So if you are ever going to a destination, feel free to check One Travel Zoo to see. You can just search by location to see if they have any deals in that location. And you can also search Groupon is another place. I mean, Groupon, especially if you're going to Great Wolf Lodge, the water park inside the Great Wolf Lodge and such, you can definitely check Groupon for that. That's where we book them through. They are usually like 50% off on Groupon, so always check that. $15.99 for Rome, Florence, and Venice for a 4-star tour from New York. Let's see what's included in this. This price tag is a little higher. Exotica is another vendor who they often have amazing packages available. However, I will warn you that I don't know if they track it with cookies and everything, but when you look at a trip, it'll be one price. And if you switch dates or go back and try and find that same thing, the price tends to go up. So they will say that it's based on inventory changes, that the price has gone up. Maybe that's true. I would say I've looked at like South African safaris for under $2,000 per person, including flights, and then gone back and tried to book it because I've researched it, looked at it. It's everything that I want. And when I go back to book it, the price has changed. So it could be due to just being like a flash sale and that inventory is booked up. It could be something else. I don't know. All right. So this is 7 nights in Rome, Florence, and Venice, which are like the 3 places I would recommend hitting up if you're going to Italy and you only have a week to spend there. You're going to fly into Rome and back from Venice. You have a guided tour of the Colosseum included, the Roman Forum and Palatine Hill in Rome, guided tours of Florence and Venice. That's really nice because then you don't have to factor in multiple hundreds of extra dollars for those excursions that are probably what you're going to want to do in those areas anyway. Visits to Assisi, Bologna, Orvieto, and Padua, lunch in Bologna. So just more included, ground transfers, and then air and hotel taxes. So this price tag's a little higher per person, but not bad for everything that it includes. I don't see if this is, I can't tell if this is a guided trip, a fully guided trip, or if it's something where you just meet up for these excursions. It does look like it's part of a bigger sale. So if you wanted to do 9 nights or 10 nights, the 10-night one is self-guided. I'm just reading a little further. You can add skip the line tickets at the Vatican. So it looks like you can add on as you go for depending on what you want to do in these cities, if you want to kind of just package it all together at once. And they're saying 4-star accommodations each night. So just remember 4-star in Europe is not the same, like it doesn't cross over as the same as 4-star in the US. There is some discrepancy there, and typically hotels in Europe, especially in the cities, are going to be smaller than what you're used to for a standard US hotel room. So if you're thinking of like fitting 5 people in a hotel room, you might need to really check the occupancy rules and things like that. They won't let you book something that's not going to fit how many people you have, but typically the hotel rooms are just smaller in general. So I think that this is a decent price. I don't think this is a screaming deal, but I think it's a decent price because it does include a little bit more than just flights and hotel. And just to mention, we have booked through Travelzoo before. We've booked multiple trips through Travelzoo. We did Scotland through Travelzoo, Ireland. I'm trying to think what other destinations we've been to. Iceland was a Travelzoo deal. So we have tested out these suppliers. Okay. Six Flags, Legoland, Janet Jackson, 65% off. So feel free to go look at that one. We're going to skip that one for now. Sail South Africa for 12 nights, half off. So this has me intrigued. Asmara Cruises via Prestige Cruises. Multiple times we have used Prestige Cruises to book trips. We did our a UK trip through Prestige. We have done, actually our Norway cruise was through Prestige Cruises, and they included airfare at that point. So let's take a little deeper dive into this one because that's an interesting price tag for a 12-night cruise. Let's see. Asmara, I've never been on Asmara Cruise Line, but this is including an inside cabin on the Asmara Quest, the beverage package, which is going to be your soft drinks, coffee, tea, and alcoholic drinks, or at least beer and wine, according to this. Includes your tips and gratuities. Good to know if you're not a cruiser and you've never cruised. Tips and gratuities is usually going to be like $100 to $200 per person. Depends on very much on how many nights you're cruising for, but it is an additional expense and it can add up quickly depending on how many people you have going. And it's something that you need to consider, in the pricing, because it's something that I shouldn't say it's mandatory, but it is understood that and you should, because the people that are receiving these tips are very hardworking. But you need to factor that into your pricing. So if you're ever getting pricing for a cruising from a travel agent or you're looking yourself, make sure you go to the last page and add on the tips and gratuities so you know how much it's actually going to cost. And this includes a cultural performance, all taxes and port fees. That's good because that's another significant amount of money. 12 to 15 nights, Cape Town to Mossel Bay, January 4th and 16th. So they are very specific dates. $1,232. That's a crazy good price for something like this. Now, something to factor in is that on 12 to 15 night cruises, you're going to have many, many stops. So this says it includes Cape Town, Port Elizabeth, Richards Bay, Durban, Mossel Bay. So at least 5 or 6 stops, and you're going to be probably paying for excursions in most of those places. That's a whole different video we can get into, how to do excursions when you're on a cruise and save some money. But factor in that those will probably be an additional cost and something that you're going to be spending money on as well. So while that's a fantastic price for this cruise, you're going to be spending probably a couple $100 in each of those ports to do excursions in each of those ports. The deposit is $600 and due upon booking. Final payment is due 120 days prior to travel, which if you're traveling in December and January, that's coming up. It's, less than 6 months away. So consider that when you're budgeting. You can make changes for a fee. Travel insurance is highly encouraged. Stay tuned. Seriously, subscribe if you want to see the video I have coming out Sunday on how travel insurance is totally screwing us over. But I won't get into that now. I'm trying to find peace with that. But you can call in, or you can actually, if you email back and forth with Prestige Cruises, they're very responsive. You can call in to talk to them. I've done it both ways. And they've been very helpful on the phone. They're super great to work with. So this is something that would be really interesting. But again, it does not include flights. And that could, depending on what the flight cost comes to, that could be totally not doable for some people to South Africa. Okay. Mexico Resort for wine lovers. Again, this is just a per night rate that's discounted, regularly $45 down to $265. Number 9, explore India on a 15-night small group tour. So this, I'm not saying is not a good deal, but I'm not going to get into it too much because India in itself is a very far destination for most people. And this is not necessarily something that people are going to be doing on a family trip with young kids. So I'm not going to dive into it too much. It's also a small group tour, which they typically will have some type of age restriction on unless it's marketed specifically for families. So it might not even be an option for a lot of people. Number 10, exclusive Maui 5-star vacation, including flights. Interesting. Great Value Vacations is who we booked with for Iceland. So if you want to check that out, I have a video on Great Value Vacations, if it's a great budget deal or if it's a scam. And I will say that, like, I mean, TLDR, it's a bare bones trip, but it's a great way to save money when you're traveling. So $1,124 for a Maui vacation. Let's see how many nights this is. 3 nights only, which, I mean, maybe if you're going from LA, 3 nights is fine. If you're coming from the East Coast, like, you're not going to be ready to leave within 3 nights. You're going to be barely just adjusted to the time zone. So I would combine this with something else, but this is a round trip from, they even have New York City listed on here, but that pricing is from San Francisco, a little bit more from Los Angeles and San Diego, and then the price keeps going up: Houston, Denver, New York City. The New York City trip, though, the price jumps to $2,000 per person, but it is 5 nights, so that's worth noting. I would still see if you could add on extra nights if you were going to go. But this is to Maui. It's staying in the Waldorf Astoria resort, which is a 5-star resort. They are gorgeous. I would have no hesitation to stay in a Waldorf Astoria anywhere we have stayed in a couple. They have all been amazing experiences. And I'm trying to think, the one we stayed in Ireland was through a Travel Zoo deal. And that's, I mean, like, I would not be paying out of pocket for a Waldorf Astoria resort. But the Travel Zoo deal to Ireland that we did, and the time we stayed in Scotland at the Caledonian, was a Waldorf Astoria. And you can see the room tour on my channel if you want to check out the 2-minute room tours playlist. But they are gorgeous resorts. They are always unique. And that's amazing that you could stay for $1,100 at a Waldorf Astoria. I mean, that's the price of the trip alone. Forget about airfare. So you get a complimentary upgrade to an ocean view room. Perfect. All taxes and fees, and the resort fee, which covers umbrellas, beach yoga, beach cruiser bikes, scuba clinics, hula and ukulele lessons, and a photography session, and 2 reusable water bottles. So that's not bad. Like, that, if I lived in LA, I'd be looking at this. 5 nights is not enough for me. We're going to Hawaii in October. We're staying at Aulani, the Disney resort there, and I think we're staying 8 nights, 9 nights, which is like my minimum when we travel that far. But this place looks gorgeous. I would have no hesitation at using Great Value Vacations. I would love to stay in a Waldorf Astoria in Maui. And I have, that says 45% off. I totally believe that that's worth well over $2,000 for that trip. So definitely one I would consider. From New York City to Prague, Vienna, and Budapest with trains. So you've got a train trip here. This is another one from Travelo Deal. And it says that the timing is when the Christmas markets are in full swing. So that's probably why it's doing Prague, Vienna, and Budapest together, because you've got Christmas markets in all of those cities. So that's really interesting. This is, 3 nights in Prague, 2 nights in Vienna, and 3 nights in Budapest. That's not a bad deal. $9.99 from Boston, Chicago, Detroit, Miami, Newark, New York, Washington, D.C., and then $100 more for some more departure destinations. And keep in mind that, like, you can typically find cheaper flights on your own from where you are to New York or where you are to your local biggest airport that these deals are leaving from. And it might cost you, another $100 per person or something like that. Or you can use airline miles and fly out as opposed to leaving from a more expensive airport destination. So internal train transfers between cities is included, air and hotel taxes, and daily breakfast. That's a really, if you've been looking to go to Christmas markets, this looks like a great way to do it. So they're not necessarily going to be like holding your hand, walking you to everything, but they've arranged the flights, the hotel, and the train transfers for you. So that looks amazing. I would love to head to the Christmas markets and see all of this stuff in these destinations. So one worth looking at if you are looking at Christmas market travel. Okay, Chile and Easter Island venture from New York City. This is to South America. This is another one through Exotica, and $28.99 is pricey, so we're not going to dive into this one too much, but it does include 7 nights, daily breakfast, international flights from the U.S. to Chile and international flights in Chile to the Easter Islands. So you've got a guide throughout the whole trip. It is a guided tour, air-conditioned vehicles, transfers are included, and tours on these at these national parks and destinations. $26.99 to $28.99. I don't think it's a bad price for a week-long trip with all of those flights included and being a guided tour, because that's usually something you're going to pay a premium for. It's just not like a budget travel trip, so I'm not going to get into it too much. Okay. 13, Bali for a one-bedroom apartment for 5 nights for $7.99. It's not, I mean, off the bat, not a bad price for a one-bedroom apartment. But again, Bali is going to cost you an airfare to get there. And it's a really long trip to bring kids to. That's why we haven't gone yet. Croatia, escorted tour from New York with Gate One Travel. Gate One Travel is another company that I have used and traveled with, and they are reputable. I would have no problem booking a trip with them again. This is a week in Croatia, an escorted tour. So again, if this was a self-guided tour, I would expect to see this price maybe somewhere around $9.99, but this is an escorted tour, so you're going to be paying a little bit more for that. This is an upscale hotel for 7 nights, 1 dinner and daily breakfast. English-speaking tour manager, sightseeing per the itinerary, air and hotel. So you can click to Gate One's site to go through, like, they will have details and break down daily what the plan is and what the tours are. So it looks like it does include some things like that, but you can also purchase additional activities. I would definitely get out to the coast as much as possible. And it looks like they have additional sales going on for Slovenia, Germany, and the Danube River cruise. Again, if you're traveling with kids, check to make sure those ages are going to work for a guided tour. $149 for an Orlando 2-bedroom suite near Disney is 50% off. Check that out if you're looking for accommodations. Although at $149, that's almost the price that you could stay at like a budget resort, depending on the time of year on Disney property, which is usually what I recommend if you're going to Disney. But of course, there are times that it makes more sense to stay off property at Disney, especially if you have a larger family and you're going to have a car. I don't like staying off property if we're not going to have our own car, because it's not great to get back and forth to the parks. This is flights to Australia, New York to Australia, round trip, $14.98. I'm sad that that's the price of that's a deal price to Australia. That seems like a full price, but I know for a fact that flights to Australia are $2,000 plus right now. Okay, Switzerland week-long guided trip from New York City. This is Escapes by Globus, another company that I'm familiar with, and it's not a crazy low price, but Switzerland is not a crazy cheap place to travel to. Almost anything you do there, anything you eat there is going to be expensive. When we went to Switzerland, we did it mostly traveling around the country by train, and we mostly just like stopped at grocery stores to grab food and eat on the go. Sit down restaurants, anything like that was pretty expensive. Aside from pizza was pretty easy to get. But this is 7 nights in centrally located hotels, guided sightseeing per itinerary, daily breakfast, and 3 dinners. All of your transfers, all your taxes and fees. You're going to go into Zurich and then return from Milan. And then the prices go up to $22.99 depending on where your airport is that you're leaving from. So that might be something you want to look at if you're looking for a guided tour in Switzerland. But again, check and see if kids are welcome on that trip. Dubai getaway with city tour from New York City for $6.99. That's the price of airfare alone. So I want to see what's included in this. Dubai is one of those places that, like, if you were going to go farther, if you were going to go to the Maldives or something and stop over in Dubai, it might make sense to look at something like this and see if you could work it in. So it's round trip flights to the US from Dubai, meet and greet assistance at the airport, 4 nights in Dubai, and round trip airport transfers. And you get a half-day city tour. So I wonder if you could work that out, to stay in Dubai for a few days and then go on to a destination and come back and use the second half of that round-trip airfare from Dubai. That would be interesting to see if that would work, because $6.99 from New York City is a really decent price for airfare plus hotels. This is just a hotel sale, $133 and up. And then you've got a British Isles 10-night cruise, again from Prestige Cruises. So like I said, we did a cruise with Prestige Cruises around, and these flights are from New York You're going to stop in Dunleary, which is then Dublin, Belfast, Glasgow, Kirkwall, Invergordon, South Queensferry, and more. So this seems like some great locations that I would highly recommend seeing at some time in your life, if not on this cruise. And these prices are $23.99 and up. I want to see which cruise line this is on. The Regal Princess, so Princess Cruise Lines, which is one of the ones we love. It includes round trip flights between the U.S. and London, and then keep in mind if it's flying you to London, you're going to need transfers to the cruise port, which I don't see included on here. So just know that would be an additional cost per person to actually get to Southampton from London. And you have some different itineraries here to choose from. So make sure it's stopping at the ports you want to stop at, because there's a couple different cruises to choose from. This is an inside room, so I'm sure they also have sales on balcony rooms and ocean view rooms. I would highly recommend having a balcony on a cruise like this, because it's really nice to be able to just walk out, have coffee in the morning, and have the views of these places around the coast. On a British Isles cruise, you're not going to be like sailing too much into open ocean and back. So you might see land from a lot of the cruise, and depending on which side of the ship you're on, that would be really a nice place to have a balcony. So it is nice that airfare is included. I think the price is kind of cushioned for airfare right now, but it is a longer cruise, 10 to 12 night cruise. So I would have no hesitation bringing kids on a Princess cruise. We cruised Princess for Alaska, and they're teamed up with I want to say it was National Geographic, and their kids club was designed with that. So it was really interesting for the kids club, and you're not going to see as many kids on a Princess cruise, but it's definitely something that I think they even gave more attention to the kids that were on board, because there weren't a ton of little kids running around, and they were able to give them all that attention when they went to kids club. My daughter had no problem going to kids club there, and we've done multiple Princess cruises. So it's a great line that we love to use. So that's it. I'm going to wrap it up there for this week's guide through my favorite budget deals from Travel Zoo. Let me know if there are any of those that you would be interested in. You can book them directly through Travel Zoo with those codes. I think that a Travel Zoo membership is about $25 for the year. They were free. They just recently went to the subscription to have access to these deals, which if you end up booking any of these trips, that $25 will be well worth it. But I'm not affiliated with Travel Zoo. I don't get any kickback for you using them. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And we'll be back next week with more of this. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more travel tips, getting confident and comfortable traveling with your kids. And I wish you safe travels, happy vacations. It's the summer. Hopefully some of you are on vacation right now, and we'll see you again next week. Bye, guys.